after what seems like a lifetime, Hytale has finally come out into the early access. Now, the entire game is not really finished yet. In fact, this is a 3-year build, so there's going to be a lot of stuff missing from it. Anyway, I go ahead and I create my character. Of course, it's my OC Ursius, which I actually got pretty close to his likeness. Anyway, I spawn into this little baby temple, which the first thing I start doing is taking everything that's not nailed to the ground. So all of the decorations, the candles, statues, the braziers, anything that I think that looks cool is going with me into my new home when I eventually build it. So now I have to find out where I'm going to build. But of course, I need to start making some tools. So once I make it outside after stealing everything in the temple, I start punching some trees because, of course, that's how you start off any survival game. And you'll notice a lot of the mechanics in this game are based off of Minecraft mods, such as taking down that whole tree in one swoop instead of one block at a time. Now, once I have some wood, I manage to make a pickaxe and get some stone. From there, I make a hatchet to take down some trees. But what I failed to do, and you'll see in a second here, is make my first weapon. I assumed the axe could be used as a weapon like in other games. So as I delve into my very first cave, realizing how expansive the cave system is, I take what I can in terms of stone so I can have something for later and to build my first weapon. But as I get a little bit further, I noticed my first enemy, a rat. Now, rats are really not that dangerous, but considering I don't have a weapon and I didn't realize I cannot use my hatchet as one, I am hitting it constantly, noticing that it's not really doing anything, and the rat just continuously bites my ankles until I have my first death. So yeah, first death 5 minutes into a rat. That's kind of embarrassing. Now, I will say that I do have the drop item on death turned off because I really don't want to have to deal with that stress of getting my items back. So yes, I know it's not hardcore enough for you, but I don't really want this to be a hardcore experience. Everything else is set to normal default rates. I just don't want to drop my items on death. Not too far from the spawn point, once I got back up, I noticed that there was a temple just a little bit off into the distance. Of course, I steal everything I can that's not nailed down, so all of the statues, the braziers, I even take this plate, which I don't end up really doing anything with, and I take a couple of the candlesticks. But as I make my way downstairs, I notice a golem, and it's blocking a portal. Now, I know for a fact I cannot take on the golem just yet, even with my newly made stone sword. So I inch around it, stealing more of these statues and stuff. I even loot the chest. Though, as it got a little bit closer, I pull the golem. Now, of course, I don't want to face it, so I run past it instead to see where the portal would take me. So the portal will actually take you to a friendly area where there are no enemies, and unfortunately, you cannot steal things. I've already tried. I don't know if you can kill the NPCs. I haven't tried that just yet, but the NPCs are friendly, and in fact, some of them will trade with you. Now, you'll notice that this is where a lot of the work in progress is going to be. Every single building has a work in progress sign. Some of the vendors don't really have anything on them, only really one does. You also find this statue of, I guess, the goddess of this game that will unlock the memory system. The memory system is basically a Pokédex, and just like with Professor Oak, the more you unlock, the more rewards you will get. But you can only carry up to, I believe it was 42 or 48 at a time, so you can't find all of them and then dump them all at the time. You have to go and get as many as you can, and then eventually come back and deposit the memories. Now, I lost the last, 10 minutes of footage here, but I eventually find a little island off the coast, not too far from the spawn, and this is where I'm going to build my base. I already put down a couple of workbenches and a furnace so I can get some stuff going. I've already mined a little bit of copper so I can start getting some copper tools, but now it was time to delve into the cave. Now, this cave is right underneath my island, and what's even better is that the cave system is expanse. I know I mentioned that before, before, but this is now where I truly find out. So of course I'm going to be mining up all of the copper that I can find and a little bit of iron too. But as you see here, I am going out a completely different exit to where I entered. In fact, I found at least 4 or 5 different entrances, all within at least like a 50 block radius of where I started. You see the little island there? That's my home. That's where I entered, and you can see where I exited. And the caves can go even further down, so far down that there's even other biomes deeper within the earth. Now, I gathered what I could in terms of copper and iron, and I headed back home to start smelting it. While that smelted, I went back into the cave because I am going to need a lot of this in order to progress and make my first armor sets. Now, unlike Minecraft, enemies don't really spawn with the lightness or darkness levels. Instead, they have a chance to spawn within a certain biome. So, as I am in the cave here, I'm not going to be overwhelmed with enemies because it's dark, but there are a chance for cave spawns to happen around me. And right there is going to be one of the areas. That is a goblin camp, and there's more likely a chance for goblins to spawn. Now, they can't spawn anywhere in the cave at any point, but the camps have a higher chance for them to spawn. Though as I turn the corner, this is where I got my first glimpse of the Deep Fire Cave. I really don't know what the biome is called. Sometimes I just call it the Deep Fire biome or Deep Fire Cave. Either way, I'm calling it the Deep Fire, but I'm not going there just yet. As you see, I am building a little bridge. That's because I found a ton of iron in the ceiling, and that's what I was going for. So once I build a little bit out, I loot all of the copper and iron. Of course, it falls down, but that's fine. I can go back down later and loot it later. I just need to dig it out for right now. And right here, you're going to see some of the goblins. A lot of the enemies have different types. So as you see there, there's one type of goblin, and there's another one right there. There are also some that have bombs, and there are other types of goblins that you can find, as well as when it comes to skeletons, demons, and all other sorts of creatures, including this weird bird thing. I don't exactly know what it's supposed to be. I guess it's supposed to be a type of turkey, but it's called a tetra bird. I found them only a couple of times just outside of caves. I don't really know what they do, so I kind of left it alone. But I went spelunking once again, but this time in a different cave, and it had a different layout. Of course, that's going to be the case in a randomly generated world, but I found this different goblin camp that was on top of like a slime river that was kind of weird. Now, as I continued down, I found these crystals. I have yet to find what crystals do in this game, but I've been collecting them anyway. You'll also notice that I have an almost full set of copper as well as a copper weapon, so I'm definitely doing pretty good as of right now in terms of progression. All I really need is to find iron, as I have plenty of copper. Of course, I fall to my death as I took a misstep into the fire biome and died from the falling damage. Now, one of the unfinished systems in this game is the fact that you cannot tame anything right yet. So horses, as you mount on them, you can ride them around and go where you need to go, but as you hop off of them, they will run away from you and even kick at you. So you cannot tame them just yet as you could a Minecraft horse. And that's the same with cows and sheep. You cannot really tame them. They will want to run away from you. You can lure them into a fenced area so you can still milk them and shear them as needed, but some of the times that the feeding bag that you use to lure them doesn't seem to always work. It's only worked once with me. But for now, I use the horse to find a new biome. It's kind of like a blue bioluminescent area, almost like the magic biome in Minecraft. Now, I do take some of the wood, and by the way, the azure logs will be important for later. I don't know that yet, I'm just taking it because it's new. But as I discover, creatures can spawn at nighttime, like this two-legged demon and this like observer looking thing. Now, the little two-legged demons are easy enough to fight. They're just really annoying because they're everywhere at nighttime, but this observer is a little bit out of my league as it hits me 2 times and I pretty much die, even while trying to block. So anyway, I end up back at my island. Now that I have some iron, I made my first shovel because there's no copper equivalent. And the best part is that the shovel can dig out multiple blocks at a time. I wish we could get a pickaxe that was like this, that would be so much better. But now that I've flattened out the island and made it livable, it is time to start building my first house. As you see there, I am laying down the outline with some bricks. Now, my original idea was to kind of make a hobbit hovel. Of course, I ended up digging down into a basement, though the basement is going to end up being a workshop and eventually some other rooms as well. Now, I do eventually get the walls up and I start placing the brand new roof pieces. Now, the roof pieces are really cool looking, as Minecraft doesn't have roof pieces, but they are a little bit hard to place, especially when you get to the corners. There are corner placements, so as you put them down, there will be corners, but it's really tricky to do so, especially when you're trying to put them up in the first place. You kind of have to put a block down and eventually they'll lay there as needed, but it's really tricky to do. I hope they improve this in the future. Now that some of my house is done, I move in some of the stuff from outside, but I still have a lot more to do until it's fully usable and livable. So I head back out to do a little bit of exploring because I was getting tired of building, because I had been doing that for several in-game days. I find some new enemies like a spider and even a mouse, and I come across this abandoned mining facility. These are quite common in the world. Well, I'll say quite common. You can find multiple of them. It's not going to be like just one. You can if you wanted to pick up the rail and the minecart, but I haven't found a reason to use them just yet, so I leave them be. I do find some skeletons outside, but skeletons are one of the easiest creatures in this game, especially those that you find in the forest biome, which even though I'm in a grassland area, it's still considered part of the forest biome. Just off to the side there, I found a mole. It was really ugly looking, but cool at the same time. Anyway, I looked down into the pit and realized it was a little too deep for me to jump, so I continued on where I found an orc camp. Now in this game, I think they're called like Trorks or something, Torks, but they're basically just orcs. Now this camp had a shaman, and the shaman can summon up white wolves to fight for them. Now I found a spot in the camp that kind of caught on them, so I didn't have to fight all of them at the same time. I could back up and they would catch on the wall there, and then I would rush up and hit them, so I was able to take them on one by one. Now I did take out the wolves and the shaman, or elder, whatever it's called, but as I got to the last one, which was just a warrior or a marauder, it got the best of me and knocked me out. Anyway, I went back to my base, and it was time to upgrade a little bit. I managed to make my first couple of repair kits. This early in the game, it's really expensive to make, and really it's not recommended to use for copper items. It's better just to make brand new items. Even with iron, you don't really want to use it just yet. It's better to use the repair kits for cobalt, thorium, and above. I also make my first chef stove, which allows me to make better quality food for better healing. I then put out my very first pen to catch some chickens. Now chickens are a little bit easier to catch than the other creatures like the cows and the horses, because here you don't lure them with wheat or seeds, you use a box in order to catch them. Oh yeah, because I'm near the beach, I also have crabs and lobsters that spawn, so I can kill them for raw fish if I needed to. Also, just further out past my island is a large fire island. Now that's where I'm headed right now to check it out, because it has been piquing my interest for a while. As I go down into the ocean, I find whales, there are jellyfish like Man o' War, there are also eels and hammerhead sharks. Now I haven't gotten close enough to the shark in order to aggro it. I'm fairly certain they are aggressive. The whales don't seem to be. Anyway, I find a pocket where the water lets up that goes into the fire island. I use this as my entry point, and then eventually I dig upward. By using the material that I dig out, I then place underneath me to lift myself up. Eventually I make it to the top, and I crawl out of what is basically the fire biome of the game. Now if you've ever played modded Minecraft, you would know the mod Biomes O' Plenty. It basically makes it so there are a lot of sub-biomes within the major ones. This game does the exact same thing, just built in. So as you saw before with the bioluminescent area, that's part of the major forest region. This is the fire biome, so it's its completely own biome, but it has a lot of sub-biomes within it. Now, I don't really know what each of the little sub-biomes are called, but For now, this little island really only has 1 or 2 biomes within, and that includes having a lot of undead creatures like that zombie cow that chased me. There are tons of skeletons, you can even find wraiths and other creatures that are a little bit too high level for me right now. This is more of an endgame zone, at least one of the endgame zones that are available right now. I continue to explore for a little bit longer, but as this island is relatively small to the other major fire biomes, I get bored and I head back to my base. Now it is time to start my farm. But that will be a story for later, as this is going to be the end of episode 1 of my adventures into Hytale. I will be returning with a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and maybe 5th episode of Hytale Adventures, where you can see me discover more unique things about this game. Until then, I will see you next time. Florida Gatorman out.